All right, dear colleagues, dear workshop participants, I think we should get started with our event. For those of you who were unable to join us a week ago, last Monday, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Serhiy Zaitsev, and I work as Program Officer with the Kyiv office of the Institute for International Education and Fulbright program. And on behalf of our program, I would like to thank you for your interest in the Fulbright Graduate Student Program and for also joining our event today. I would like to welcome you back to our webinar series in which we are discussing how to put together strong and effective essays that are going to be part of your application packages for the Fulbright Graduate Student Program. Last time around, a week ago, we talked about the most effective ways of putting together strong research or study objective essays. And we also touched upon the best strategies for selecting an effective writing sample, also a very important part of your application for the program. Today, we're going to continue the discussion by talking about how to put together effective personal statement essays. And just like last time, we invited our good friend, Glenn Anderson, who is based in Lviv. He's been working with the Lviv Polytechnic National University there for a number of years by now. Glenn gave a very insightful and interesting presentation a week ago, which we have made available to all of you, to all of the participants of our workshop last Monday, along with Glenn's presentation. The plan is to do the same this time around as well. So after today's event, we will definitely circulate both Glenn's presentation and a link to a video recording of this event to all of the participants that registered to take part in both workshops, in fact. Let me just say that, let me just finish this very brief introductory remarks by saying that we truly hope that this discussion will be interesting. We would like to kindly ask you to please save your questions until Glenn has actually finished his presentation. There will be sufficient time for Q&As at the end of this event. And so, so without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Glenn. Please, Glenn.
Thank you, Serhiy, and thank you all for coming back. And those of you who are here for the first time, we're going to talk about the personal statement, and I believe this is very important. I've worked with many people on either what we call a motivation letter or personal statement. Often universities want these, different grant proposals. This is your opportunity to share with Fulbright who you are. The very word itself, personal, it has the word person in it. And it's very hard to really get a feel for who the person is just from some pieces of paper. So this is your chance to show who you are as a person. Because I will tell you that what we talked about last week in your application, I am fairly certain that everyone who's applying for this Fulbright opportunity is qualified. You have met the qualifications in terms of what they're looking for academically. In fact, when I was reading some of the comments from Fulbright reviewers about people that they did not accept, they always began by saying, you know, you're very qualified, you participate in your university, you have excellent credentials in terms of your classes. So right there, you've met that bar. So what gets you accepted? And it's got to be this personal statement of who you are and how you're going to use this opportunity. So if I can share the screen here, go. And just from my years as a history teacher, I always begin my classes by telling my students, what is it that I expect them to get out of the class by the time that we're done, the objective. And so our objective here is very simple, that applicants, that's you, will write a personal statement according to the guidelines provided by Fulbright. That's the first thing we want to do, is look at what do they want, using effective writing strategies. And then also the second part, this one's a little bit different. Applicants will conduct a personal inventory of soft skills in order to identify qualities and characteristics within themselves that will make their personal statements unique and memorable. A personal inventory, this word inventory, is very commonly used in business. When Silpo does an inventory, they're counting everything that they have on their shelves. A personal inventory is when you look inside yourself to see what characteristics and what qualities that you have. We'll talk about soft skills and the importance of soft skills. But last week, I mentioned that it's been my experience that Ukrainians often undersell themselves. They don't put themselves out there in a forward way to let people know their good qualities. And people in general often don't look at the things they do as significant or as important or as showing some really positive qualities. And so we want to talk about those things. The first thing here, I think that we want to talk about is what the Fulbright application says that the personal statement is not. It's not your CV. It's not your resume. It's not just a list of facts of things that you have done. You've already provided this information to them. And while this tells something about you, it really doesn't show you are. So what is it that they are looking for? It should be a narrative. That's a kind of a story in a way that includes the information about your educational experience, any practical experience you have. It can be about your interest, your career plans, and your purpose for applying to study in the US. And this is very important. It's so important that they mention it repeatedly, your purpose and why you're applying. The second thing, this is a discussion of your life experience. It's about your background, not just your education, but what is it about your life and your desire to study in your particular field that's going to make them interested in having you be a representative from Ukraine to come to the United States. And again, for the second time in these directions, they mention, what's your purpose in applying to study in the United States? Make sure that you make that very clear to them. And then finally, anything else that's influenced you in your educational or professional life, anything that you think is significant. And this can be a lot of things from your background that is, you're more than just a student or than just a teacher. There are many facets to your life that go into making you who you are. I think probably many of you are very good writers, and maybe you don't need this particular kind of advice, but let me share it anyway. As I mentioned last week, for almost 30 years, I was a history teacher in the United States. Although my students often complained that I was their second English teacher. And the reason they said that is that I required my students to write quite a bit, to write essays. I was a big believer in the ability to write a good essay to explain something, which means I spent a lot of time teaching students how to write. This is a very difficult skill. Human beings, Homo sapiens, have been on the planet for, 250,000 years. But we only started writing about 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, and writing only became something that the masses did 100, 150 years ago. which means we did not evolve to write. We did not evolve to read writing. It's a difficult skill for human beings. And we should acknowledge this right from the beginning, which means that you want your writing to be clear, logical, simple, so that the person reading it understands what you're trying to say. Because that's really what writing is. You have an idea in your mind, and you want to put it in the mind of someone else. And your writing is the way you're going to transmit that information. So one of the easiest ways to do this is a 5-paragraph essay. And in this case, your first paragraph is your introduction. And an introduction is the introduction to you. It's like you're introducing someone, introducing a friend to another friend. Well, you're introducing yourself to the Fulbright people. So tell them, why are you applying? That's what they want to know. What influenced you in making this decision? And here's where you're showing your motivation or commitment. How passionate are you about studying in the United States in this program and in helping Ukraine? We bring this information back. The other thing, your second paragraph, which is your first body paragraph, this is where you're briefly going to summarize what we call your hard skills, the things you have been taught, your education, your qualifications in terms of the knowledge that you've gained, any practical experience. This is probably fairly easy for you to do. The third paragraph, this is a little bit more difficult, and it's what we're going to spend most of our time talking about, are your soft skills. Soft skills tend to underestimate, but they're actually the most important thing. Soft skills are your ability to communicate, your ability to work well in a team, your ability to be a leader of that team. It's all the personality things that allow you to be successful. We sort of take them for granted and think, well, of course, everybody has this ability, but they do not. And those abilities are what set you apart from other applicants. For the fourth paragraph, you want to finish the body with what are your goals? What's influenced you in your journey towards where you're going and what you've studied, why you're going to the United States? What are your career plans? And then finally, you have a conclusion. And this is your last chance to talk to the Fulbright people, the last chance to sell yourself to them. Tell them, why are you applying? They mention this over and over, the directions. What is your purpose? And then this is your last chance to sell them, why should they choose you? If you think about like American lawyer programs, in the United States, we have juries of citizens who decide cases. I don't think that's the case in Ukraine. It's usually a judge. But always in these legal programs, the lawyer gets up and at the end makes the case to the jury. It's the last time that she can say to the jury, this is why my client is innocent or whatever. Well, this conclusion is your last chance to tell them why you are the perfect fit for this Fulbright program. Now, I want to talk about these soft skills, and this is mostly what we're going to talk about. Soft skills are so important, and we tend to undervalue them. We tend to think that, oh, because I have these, everyone has them. But it's critical for success, not only in academics, but in work. And this isn't just my opinion. There have been studies, many studies showing that soft skills are what determine success. At Harvard University, they did a study and found that 85% of workplace success is soft skills. Your ability to be organized, your ability to work well with others, your ability to plan, your ability to continue to work in the face of adversity, your ability to communicate with all of that all of those are soft skills. Only 15% did they determine were technical skills. And I often say to people, it's like if you're a programmer and you're applying for a job, well, let's say that they need you to understand the programming language of Python. Any company can teach you that in 2 weeks. But if you are the kind of person that does not work well with others and don't have a good personality, you can't teach that to somebody in 2 weeks, right? And so there was another study that was done, oops, signing in, by Stanford and also the Carnegie Mellon Institute, with Fortune 500 chief executive officers. And their findings were very similar to Harvard, that 75% of long-term job success is based on soft skills. Almost all employers say that soft skills are more important than hard skills, and that more than half of all employees fail within the first year and a half because they don't have soft skills. These soft skills are important to you in your study in the United States, and they're important to Fulbright. So right now, I want to do a little soft skills inventory. And I think Sergey said that he sent out this little one-page form with a list of 10 soft skills on it. And then there's a breakdown. I think there's something like 45 different things, little circle next to them. All I want you to do as we talk about this is put a little check mark if this is about you, if you know that you possess this particular skill. And then also be thinking, where in your life have you demonstrated that skill? Or maybe where in your life did you learn to use that skill? You can make a little note for yourself on that. So let's start with the first two here. Time management. Time management is important in a university setting. It's important in a business setting. What does it mean? You are able to manage the stress of your work life, of your education life. I will tell you, I think that Ukrainians are uniquely qualified to talk about how to manage stress these last 2 years. Because it's not just the normal stress of work or the normal stress of academia, but we've got added stress that's been added here, as everyone knows. Are you an organized person? I'm betting that most of you are. It's probably been a key part of your success as a student, is the ability to be organized. Do you have the ability to prioritize your tasks, to do what's important first, and then put down at the bottom of the list the least important? Are you a good planner? Are you somebody who makes lists? Are you somebody who is able to lay out for the week what you have to do? That is an important skill. And then finally, I don't think you would be here if you weren't a person who was good at goal setting. That if you knew what your goals were and you were able to sort of come up with a plan to achieve them. Communication, it's just what you think. Are you able to communicate effectively with your people? You know, a big part of the Fulbright opportunity here is that you're going to go to the United States. You're going to learn new skills. You're going to learn new information, new ways of doing things. But the Fulbright people, as I said last week, they are idealists. They believe that there can be a better world through education, but they're practical idealists. They want to find the people who can make that happen. And the way that happens is that you go there, but you come back here and you communicate to Ukrainians what it is that you've gained from this experience, whether it's verbally or in a written form. Are you able to do presentations for large groups of people? Can you give feedback to people and also receive it? And then this last one, are you an active listener? And this is so important, and it's also very difficult. Active listening is not just being quiet while you wait your turn to talk. Active listening is when you are really engaged in what the person is saying. And that's how we really learn. And so if check off next to these, which of these are you? Now we have two other soft skills, adaptability and problem solving. And both of these kind of go hand in hand. Adaptability is about your ability to deal with changes. And there's always changes in the workplace, in academia, certainly in our life here in Ukraine. We have to be adaptable. For, you know, there's an air raid. Now we've got to adapt our situation, what we're going to do today. Are you able to manage your own life? Optimism might seem like a strange one, But successful people, I truly believe, are optimistic people because they believe in a better tomorrow. If you don't, why bother to go to class? Why bother to go to work? Why bother to get out of bed at all if you're not optimistic about the future? And I think it's a very important trait, and it's something that lots of organizations look for. And I think Fulbright does as well. Are you a calm person? I think that this is a general Ukrainian trait. I have found that Ukrainians, while they can be very passionate and almost Italian in their expression of things when they communicate with each other, in general, they remain calm in the face of adversity. And so if this is you, little check. Are you self-motivated? Do you need someone to tell you what to do, or is it coming from inside? I think the fact that you're here tells us that probably the people here are self-motivated. Oops, too far. To be a problem solver means that you have the ability to analyze a problem, break it down to its parts, take one big problem and break it down to 5 smaller problems and solve each of those 5. Are you logical, rational? Can solve problems in a reasonable way? Are you very observant and can see the problem from all sides? Brainstorming is a great ability to have, to sit with a group of people and talk about a problem and come about and hear new ideas. And then this last one, are you a person that's able to make decisions? Can you do all of the 4 things before that and then make the decision that says, okay, this is what we have to do? 2 other soft skills are working in a team and creativity. And so teamwork, I think, is probably one of the most essential things in our modern, in the academic world and in the world of work. People aren't working by themselves. They're working with others. And so having the ability to work with others is so essential. Are you able to manage conflict with people? Are you able to help people reach a resolution? Because wherever there's people in a group, there's going to be conflict. It's normal. It's how we handle that conflict that says something about us. Can you collaborate well with others? Can you work with other people, share ideas? And can you help coordinate people so that everyone's working towards a common goal? How are you with exchanging ideas? Can you give ideas and receive them as well? And mediation is kind of like this conflict management. Are you the person that people come to when there's a problem and you're able to hear both sides and come up with some sort of solution for this? If these are about you, put the little check next to that. Creativity. I am a firm believer that creativity can be taught, and I wished we put more focus on it in our schools and universities to teach people to be creative. I think we often teach them how not to be creative, but that's a whole different story. But do you have a good imagination? Innovation means, are you able to come up with new ways to do things? Are you willing to experiment with your ideas? And if you question these ideas, are you willing to maybe change your previous opinion? This is an important trait. These are important traits for any academic, I think. And then leadership and interpersonal skills. Leadership is so important, and I think especially now. We need leaders. And that a leader, I think this is one of the most misunderstood things. That in my life, I've had many opportunities before I was a teacher to be in charge of groups of people. And oftentimes people misunderstand leadership and think that it is about a title, or they think it's about the person who talks the loudest or tries to impose their views on others. Leadership is about managing people. And to do that, and the reason I put authenticity here is you have to be yourself. There's lots of different leadership styles, but it has to come from within you. Are you able to mentor people? Are you able to take someone and bring them along and share what you've learned so that you want them to succeed just as much as yourself? Can you be generous with giving credit to other people and praise to other people? One of the things that I have learned from working in business and managing people is that if my team was successful, I was successful. And so I was always very generous in pointing out who did a good job and who should get credit for something, because ultimately their success was my success. Um, Cultural intelligence, this really has a lot to do with understanding that people are different and that they're coming from different backgrounds and they're coming from different places in their life. And it's not just cultural. It's about gender, it's about age, it's about knowing that everybody has sort of different objectives and is in a different place in their interpersonal skills. I think this is one that probably many of you have and probably undervalue it and don't realize how important it is. To have empathy, of course, I think it's the same in Ukrainian. I don't empathy and sympathy. Ukrainian word. No, there are two different words for this, but sorry. Empathy is your ability to understand or going through. A sense of humor is so important in working with the team, working with other, to just be able to have a laugh so that the people you're working with know that you have a good sense of humor, that they enjoy working together. Networking, networking is so Ukrainian. If you're going to survive in Ukraine, then you have to know somebody who knows somebody who can fix your leaky faucet. You have to be able to go to someone's grandmother who can tell you where it is the best place that you get your shoes fixed. Everything is done by networking, right? And so this is an important skill to be able to network. I had someone joke that that in Ukraine that there is this large Babusi network that every Ukrainian grandmother is connected to every other Ukrainian grandmother somewhere in Ukraine through this network. Do you have tolerance for other people and other people's ideas? This is important. We are not all the same. We don't all agree. We may not all live the same lifestyle, but tolerance means not that you agree with someone, but that you can separate out your personal differences so that you can work together in a team. And to be diplomatic is a way of dealing with problems so that a person doesn't take it personally. That you talk about actions instead of talking about personality traits, right? To say, you know, well, I have some examples for you. Let me finish this up. And so I think these are our last two here. A work ethic. Again, I think this is very Ukrainian. Are you a hard worker? And I think I've never seen such hard workers as Ukrainian people. This means that you have the discipline to work hard. You're responsible. You show up on time. We can depend on you to get things done. That you have a commitment to doing a good job and that you act professionally. You want to demonstrate that to in your application to show the Fulbright people that they can believe in you, that you're going to accomplish what it is you set out to do. And finally, attention to detail is as it sounds. Can you make a schedule? Can you observe things critically? Are you able to question things that may not work? All of these soft skills. Now, before I go on here, let me ask you, as you are doing this, I'm hoping that most of you have lots of ticks next to these bubbles here. Is this the case? Is it? I hope. Yes. Yes. Did you know you were so talented that you had so many skills? I've worked with a number of Ukrainians, students and adults who were either applying for grants or study opportunities. In one case, an SBU officer who was trying to get an opportunity to study in Germany. But as I was saying, in each of these cases, whether I was working with a motivation letter or a personal statement, it was all about trying to convince this organization that these people had skills that often they didn't know that they had had. They would come in and say, "Oh, young people, I don't have a lot of experience. I haven't done anything." And we would sit down and we talk about, okay, well, first we did this personal inventory, as you just did. Um, and then we would talk about where have you had the opportunity to show this? And so I want to give you some examples that were all real life examples that we worked on together. And so, for instance, I had someone who came in and said, for the first year of the full-scale invasion, I volunteered at a Lviv warehouse and call center involved in coordinating donations for those affected by the war. Now, she wrote this, and it's like, this looks like a very nice thing to put on your motivation letter, right? It says something good about you. But when we talked about soft skills, and I asked her, instead of saying this, how does it sound if you include some of the soft skills that were required to do what it is that you've talked about? So you could now say, I actively contribute as a volunteer at the biggest warehouse in Lviv, managing donations for displaced Ukrainians affected by the war. My volunteer responsibilities include receiving, organizing, and distributing donations and essential supplies, as well as working at the call center to fundraise, solicit donations, and coordinate deliveries. Through this volunteer work, I have discovered in myself newfound skills of which I was previously unaware. Now, essentially, these two statements are the same, but the second statement is showing what skills that she had that made this volunteer opportunity or volunteer service something that brought something out in. So, for instance, the fact that she's receiving, organizing, and distributing donations and supplies, this requires management skills. Soliciting funds and fundraising, this requires communication skills. And so the second statement is showing soft skills that are transferable to other areas. Let me give you a different example. Okay. So I had someone who said, I participated in PLOST. Maybe some of you have done this for 9 years, helping to raise funds for the Ukrainian military. Very nice. It sounds like a line from your CV or from your resume. But for your motivation letter, for your personal statements, since 2014, I have been a representative of PLOST, the Ukrainian Scout Organization. PLOST has helped me develop many soft skills, including leadership, organization, team building, problem solving, and adaptability. In the Ukrainian Girl Scouts, I achieved the highest level of advancement, organizing and participating in no fewer than 9 service projects, including our most recent fundraising auction to benefit Ukrainian men and women in the military. And again, now you're showing skills that are transferable for Fulbright and for study in the United States. This girl was applying actually for a scholarship in Vienna, actually Vienna and Sweden. She ended up getting it and going to Sweden to study. But she had leadership skills. She was an organized person. She worked with teams. She was able to solve problems. Actually, when she came in and we sat down and talked, she said, I finished university, my BA, but I have no experience. I've done nothing. And by the time we were done doing this personal inventory, she was like, wow, I'm pretty amazing. I mean, it like created confidence in herself. It's like, we didn't make anything up. We didn't lie. She just realized that she had so much more talent than she knew she did. She wasn't giving herself credit for all the things that she had done. I have another example. This one, don't just say, I was the president of a student government at my school, as well as a university group leader. Again, it looks like a line from your CV, just something you're listing that you did. But those things are hiding lots of talents and skills. You're not just a president of a student government. Um, my academic success in both school and university is the result of motivation and hard work, as well as a willingness to constantly challenge myself. You're showing your work ethic and that you're self-driven. In both school and university, I have taken on leadership positions, first as the president of the student government at my school, and currently as the leader of my university group, 27 students, as well as the leader of 120 students of the Finance, Banking, and Insurance Institute. Those are important skills. And those aren't skills that just apply to these two things. Those are skills that you take with you wherever you go in life, whether it's to, in this girl's case, to study in Sweden, or for you to study in America or in your future life. Those are skills that are within you. I've got just two more here. I'm the president of the Lviv chapter of the Board of European Students of Technology, BEST. I also participate in a Ukrainian folk dancing troupe. This person was almost thinking, why would I put down that I participate in a Ukrainian folk dancing troupe? Why is that important to anyone? But I have developed leadership and problem-solving skills in an international environment through my involvement in the Lviv Polytechnic chapter of the Board of European Students of Technology. As president, I have honed my ability to motivate a team, as well as successfully develop management, organizational, communication skills. Then here comes the dancing part. In addition, I have worked cooperatively within a team as a member of a Ukrainian folk dancing troupe that has performed in 6 countries throughout Europe. Performing in a dance company requires commitment and a disciplined work ethic, as well as the ability to work well with others to achieve a finished production. So when we started, she thought, well, okay, yeah, I mean, I do Ukrainian folk dancing. Why is that important? Well, it's important because, one, it shows that you have international experience, but mostly because if there's any group of people that need to work well together to succeed, it's got to be a group of dancers. Everybody can't just go their own way, right? You're working together as a team. So that takes a real commitment. It takes dedication to go to practice all the time and keep dancing and tired. And you have to work together in order to make it look so effortless when we watch you on the stage. My final example is that I was for several months tutoring officer with the Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU. This was very interesting. I learned a lot of things about the SBU, although he didn't reveal any secrets or anything. But so again, he was a team leader with the SBU. This was a line on his resume. But as we talked, I kind of pulled out of him, well, what does it mean to be a team leader? And so in his final motivation letter, that one line became this: my extensive formal training is only part of the requirements for an SBU officer. That's the hard skills. Just as important are the interpersonal skills, which I believe make me an ideal candidate to share the lessons of this program with my fellow Ukrainians in the security service. Over the years, I have excelled in working with teams and am able to coordinate people to help them collaborate and work well towards a common goal. I have learned it's not only important to convey instructions and goals clearly and logically, but also to listen to people's suggestions and feedback so that the team operates smoothly and efficiently. I believe these are traits that will allow me to get the most of this opportunity provided by the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Germany. And so again, when we started talking, I've been a team leader, but really to be a team leader, that is so many skills that are layered there. for a group to work, especially in an organization like the SBU, they have to work well together. And the leader is the person who makes that happen. And you make that happen by collaborating with people, by being able to communicate to them what it is that they need to do, but also listening to their feedback so that you're constantly improving your group. And then also included here is his commitment to taking what he learns in Germany and bringing it back. Because again, I told you these people at Fulbright, they're idealists, but they want to magnify their idealism. They want you to take what you learn and share it with 10 people, to share it with 20 people, and then maybe they share it with more people. And that way their investment in you gets such a big payback because it's not helping one person, it's helping tens, 20s, hundreds of people when you come back. So that is my sort of advice and suggestions here about, I think, how you can be effective with your personal statement. If you have any questions at this point, this would be a good time to bring them up.
Glenn, this is excellent. Thank you so much for providing these powerful examples and for placing the emphasis on the soft skills. This is really great. They're very often overlooked in our culture generally and in the academic culture in particular. So thank you for sharing these insights. Really very, very constructive, very interesting, very useful for our prospective applicants, I'm sure. Yes, we're opening this now to questions. If you have any questions for Glenn that are directly related to the issues that he just raised, the things that we discussed, that he discussed in his presentation, please, you're welcome to pose your questions now. If you have questions about the program generally that are beyond the scope of this discussion, then we can stay for a brief period of time after the workshop. So we'll let Glenn go and then have a discussion also with the program manager, Inna Barish, who is here with us today. But for the time being right now, you're welcome to ask questions about Glenn's presentation.
Yeah, Bogdana.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your presentation. I want to say that the soft skills exercise or the personal, I forgot how you called it exactly, portfolio inventory, right, of the skills was very important, very interesting to compile. I noticed that I have pretty many check marks in there, and I just wanted to ask, how can we make the essay, the personal statement, not look like just a list of skills, even though they would be presented in the scope of like specific examples, right? But so that it just doesn't look like a list of 50 skills that you put in, but more like an essay actually.
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. Because as it's pointed out at the beginning, they don't want a list of things, right? And so now that you've done this personal inventory and checked off the things that are about you, I would start thinking about where in your life have you demonstrated these skills? What organizations, what programs, what volunteer services, anywhere that you've done this, and then start, putting those next to the skills. Now, of course, you're not going to list them all. And it's great if you checked off many of them and that you have a list of 30 or 40 different things. It's all not going to fit in this essay. What I would then do is, as I showed you with these writing examples, is pick 2 or 3 of these, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these activities that you've participated in, and then explain how you use these skills to successfully participate in this. And so you saw I talked about is like if you are the president of an organization, well, what did that mean? What did you have to do? Well, I had to motivate people. I had to make sure people were organized well, and that they were all working together as a team. Just use like a couple of sentences to show the soft skills that are associated with what you did in that particular situation or organization. I think it's a great thing that now that you're done with this, you have so many skills listed. And I think this is probably all of you, that you couldn't possibly list them all in one personal statement. And so, well, let's see, it's like you're a very talented group of people, right? And that maybe you didn't realize this, or you did not give this enough credit, that these are actually important skills to have in the world. So to summarize, I would say pick 2 or 3 and then situations, and then pick some of the skills that you think are most important. Communication, working well in a team, being organized. I think these are all important things that Fulbright would look for.
And if I understood it correctly, also, it is equally important to state the things that you knew and implemented in those places and the things that you learned from these places. Am I right?
And yes, and it may be different for different people. It may be that, when I talk to people, and this is a sort of a different thing, since the full-scale invasion, I always say that the war didn't change people, it revealed people. It revealed who we are. And so I would say that, in some situations, if you come into an organization, maybe it was revealed that you had these skills all along. Or for some people, it may be that you developed them over time. You learned how to be a leader. So it's going to be personal. There's no one right way to do this. It's going to be personal to your experience.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah, Maria?
Hello, thank you for your presentation. And I want to ask you about kind of maybe strange question, but how not to let the soft skills overshadow my hard skills? I mean, we applied for Fulbright first of all, for education. I have an education experience. And as far as concerned, in this situation, our major and the field we choose for our education should be like in priority. But if my soft skills and the majority of my extracurricular activities are in absolute different field than I'm major, how may I show that I'm still dedicated with my major, despite the fact that I'm involved in absolutely different extracurricular activities, which has no match with my major in university?
Yeah, and I think you talked a little bit about this last week, about having a different focus. I mean, with your writing sample. I don't know, maybe
It's kind of, I'm sorry, no, I know I want to confuse you. No, it's kind of a different question. I mean, I'm better with examples, I think. For example, I'm studying history in my university, but I'm involved in a students' organization about marketing and business, and I'm working as copywriter there. Despite the fact that I'm not into marketing like in my university, I work with marketing materials and with advertisement and with business cases in my student organization. And how not to let this my extracurricular overshadow my major in university, because I want to study history and major in with Fulbright in USA.
Sure. And I understand this now. By the way, can I ask you just an aside? Maria, are you thinking about being a history teacher or a professor, or a different area of study for history?
I'm not.
It doesn't matter if you don't know yet.
A professor, I will decide it in the future, but I want to start with being a researcher. That's it.
Yeah, that's okay. This is a separate thing. I would say that the wonderful thing about soft skills is that they're transferable. It doesn't really matter where you demonstrated these soft skills if they're skills that are also useful in your area of study. So for instance, I gave this example about dance. This person was actually applying for a study, I think, in finance. And so she was thinking, why are finance people going to care that I was in a dance troupe? Because working in the dance troupe demonstrated group skills and the ability to work with a group and set goals, which are useful in any profession. To be able to work with a group, it doesn't matter what group you worked with. It's that you know how to work with a group. And so I don't think the soft skills will shadow that. You've already, with your writing sample and your application, and even in the personal statement, you've laid out what your hard skills are. Now your soft skills are kind of what separate you from everyone else. It's like, how are you going to take what you learn and be able to make it useful? And that's through your soft skills. Is there
Thank you.
anyone else that had a question? Yeah.
Yes, may I?
Yo, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ludmila.
First of all, thank you very much for your wonderful inventory of soft skills, which cannot overshadow the hard skills, but they really complement the hard skills. And I would like to ask you a question. If we could, if soft skills could be related to emotional intelligence.
I think this is, yeah, very much. I mean, people who have a high emotional intelligence are the people who are successful with their soft skills.
Because they say that emotional intelligence, well, in many cases, is more important than IQ.
Yes, and I think this, especially in success in business.
Especially in
Yeah.
teamwork, especially in work with people, with understanding each other and other things, well, vitally important situations and things. So this list that you have provided to us, I mean, the inventory, is priceless. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
If I may ask you, I mean, the inventory, it means we will pay attention not only to our advantages, but also may have some critical view on our not perfect skills, or let's say some weak skills yet. And maybe we can say something on how we are planning to develop these skills, or how we can plan to make them stronger, etc. So what is your opinion? Is it better not just to mention them at all, or maybe mention that I am not very good in team management, but I am planning to develop myself through such activities as like something like this? So what's your opinion?
Sergey, I was going to ask, if you were going to buy an automobile and the salesman said, this car does not have a very good suspension system, but we're planning on improving it in the future, how would that make you think about buying this car? I would say focus on your strengths. Now is not the time to share with people your weaknesses or imperfections. We all have them, but you are trying to convince these people that you are the best person for the program. So you don't do that by being too humble and saying, I'm not very good at this, but I hope to be better in the future. I would say stick with your strengths, because I'm sure you have plenty of them.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Glenn, as you pointed out last time, the applicants need to sell themselves.
Yes.
Right. So this is not the time to emphasize your weaknesses or something that you haven't quite developed yet. You need to showcase your competencies and your strong points, basically, in order to be able to sell. And the question that you should ask yourself is, why should the Fulbright program pick myself and not somebody else? This is the question that you need to answer in your essays. Why you? Why not somebody else? Why you are the best, and why are you worthy of our support? Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's perfect. I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
Ask.
Yeah, Marina.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you for all the information you shared. It was like, and it will be really helpful. I wanted to ask, because you said about the 5 paragraphs in the personal motivation. So I wanted to ask if it should be like separate, like one by one, or for example, if you have hard skills and soft skills in some situations, some experience, like it can be together. So how to like mix this, or we shouldn't do this? Like what to do in this situation?
Yeah, oh, that's a very good question. I gave this as an example because a 5-paragraph essay is sort of an easy to understand way to do this, but it's not the only way. It's not the only way to write an essay. Your goal is to be clear and understandable. That when this person reads this, keep in mind that the people who are reading this are going to be reading, I don't know, maybe hundreds of these applications, and you want yours to stand out from everyone else. And so the first thing is it has to be clear and understandable. So if you have a different way of organizing it, if you want to show within your hard skills that you also have soft skills, that's a great thing to do. I mean, you can write a paragraph about your hard skills and how you use soft skills within this, and then maybe another paragraph that's about maybe this other part of your life where you're volunteering or you're involved in some other kinds of artistic organizations or activities that are not part of those hard skills that also show your soft skills. So it's, Marina, there's not like one right way to do it. You just want to make sure that when you're done, and I would, if you have people that you respect, their sort of intellectual and educational ability, have them read your essay and give you honest feedback. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is this clear to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question now. So, for example, because my specialty, it's like it's film. So if I choose, for example, the style of my essay to be not like super official, but with my own voice, like to go in some more, I don't know, creative way, or for like the writer's way, if it can be okay for this, or what do you think?
Well, I think I'm going to defer to this to Sergey or Ina. I will just say this. It sounds like you're talking about being a little more informal.
Mhm.
You have to be careful that your informality is not taken for an inability to write in a more formal way. Here's the thing with creativity. We have the ABC grading scale in the United States. Someone who goes outside the box and is very creative can earn an A or an F. It's usually not in between. So I will let our experts here talk about this idea of being more informal or having her use her own voice in this essay. What do you think?
Well, my take on this is that you can indeed be informal as long as you demonstrate your abilities and your competencies and your skills in your essays. I mean, at the end of the day, the reviewers are going to be looking for all of those skills and things in the documents that you provide as part of your application package. So it doesn't have to be terribly formal or official. I mean, it can probably be a piece of creative writing, but you need to basically, display all of your qualities and all your skills there, what you have learned and what you're looking to achieve and how your skills will be perfected, improved as a result of your fellowship in the US. So these are the kinds of things that the reviewers are typically looking for in the documents. So keep that in mind as you think about what sort of essay to provide and what style to use. I mean, you are definitely in a creative field, so I can imagine that your essay may be quite different from the statement submitted by the other applicants, and that's perfectly all right. I mean, that, it's not a script, it's not something set in stone. Glenn just provided recommendations basically for writing effective statements, and also that we have guidelines developed by IIE and Fulbright program, and they're quite good, and you can follow those guidelines, but nowhere do they say that you're supposed to fill out a form. I mean, you just need to think about the most effective ways of presenting yourself. or selling yourself. I mean, I don't like this term, but it is selling yourself to us, right? Why should we pick you and not somebody else? Be it in film or biomedical engineering or history or medicine or something like that. I would also like to follow up very briefly on what Ina and Glenn said about the soft skills and hard skills. Please keep in mind, I think it would be fair to say that Fulbright is also looking to bring back future leaders of Ukraine. So in your personal statement especially, but also partly in your research study objective essay, you need to argue about the potential contribution that you're going to make to the development of this country once you come back from the US, right? How are you going to contribute to the rebuilding of the country? What are the specific ways in which you're going to help this country develop further? You know, both in terms of your hard skills, in terms of your professional discipline, and in terms of your soft skills. You know, they're really intertwined. And so as you work on your essays, please keep in mind that you need to reflect on how you're going to contribute to the development of this country once you return from the US. It's really one of the most crucial aspects of the Fulbright program, and you need to consider that.
Yeah, Sergey, I'm glad you emphasized that again, because it is so important, and you are the next generation of leaders. And
Absolutely,
if I can
yeah.
kind of build on what Sergey was saying, Rina, about your essay, that in a way this essay is already informal because you're writing in the first person. You are telling your story. So there's definitely room for you to be creative and emotional and powerful in telling your story. You know, so it's yeah, I definitely use your creativity.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Marina, can I ask what kind of filmmaking do you do?
I'm a film director.
A film director?
Yes.
Yeah. We were talking about film today with a friend of mine, and I happened to mention that, like, from a historical point of view, one of the big mistakes that the Nazis made in World War II is that they went after a group of people, the Jews, who have a history of literature and art and creativity, so that for decades afterwards, they were writing stories and poems and making films that have followed the German nation to this very day with this shame. And I think that Russia has done the same thing. They have gone after people who have a long history of literacy and literature and poetry and filmmaking. And for generations to come, Ukrainians are going to be telling these stories. And Russians are not going to look good in popular culture and film and literature for a very long time because of this, because of people like Marina who are going to tell these stories in film and others.
Yeah, we are going to tell, like, and I hope that generation after generation gonna remember about all of this. And actually film and literature needed for this.
And so basically in your case, the question that you need to answer in your statements would be, what are the kinds of skills and competencies that you're going to gain in the US that would empower you to do what you set out to do in the most effective way? That is, to make sure that these atrocities committed by the Russians are remembered for many years to come.
Mm-hmm.
And are never forgotten, basically, right? I mean, that's your specific case. That's your particular situation. I mean, other applicants need to answer the same question, basically, right? But in their own disciplines, in their own academic fields.
Did anyone else have any other questions about the personal statement?
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming. I wish you great luck and hope that you get this opportunity to study and bring back these skills and do amazing things for Ukraine after the victory.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was really great. We very much appreciated your presentation and all of your insights. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge. It was a very engaging talk. Thank you for your passion. And above all, thank you for everything you do for Ukraine. And please know that it is very much appreciated.
That's very nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the participants. Thank you.